Broadcasting live. It's America's longest running talk show on computers. It's Computer America, bringing you the biggest names in technology with guest interviews, new products, and your emails. Listen live at computeramerica.com on any device around the world. Email the show at live@computeramerica.com or find us on social media. Be sure to check out our website for contests, giveaways, show notes, live video stream, podcasts, and more. You're listening to Computer America.
Hello and welcome everyone into the Computer America Show. We are the nation's longest running, nationally syndicated radio talk show on computers and technology. Everyone, welcome into the program. Today on the show, we have computer and technology news. We have headlines from all over the internet, and they encompass everything from geopolitics to gaming to battery technology, hey, you know what? There's going to be something for everyone. I promise you that. So everyone, welcome into the program, computeramerica.com. That's where you'll find everything, including past shows, future shows, everything you need to know, including show notes, links to guests and articles, the podcast, social media links, all that and more. Be sure to go there, check it out. Even just recently, we posted an article that had to do with Wi-Fi 7 and Wi-Fi sensing and what that is. Because let's face it, Wi-Fi sensing is a very interesting and loaded topic. And so we highly recommend that you go check out that article. And yeah, you can definitely find a lot there. So everyone, now with that being said, let's go ahead and start with computer and technology news brought to you by Computer America. Here we go. Not that one. Yeah, that one. So I think that for our first story, this one is not going to, obviously it's going to make headlines because, hey, we found it, but it's not going to make a lot of headlines because it's about something not happening. And this is a pretty big one where Nvidia is, of course, reportedly preparing to abandon its $40 billion takeover of ARM. And so there's a few sides to the story, which I'm sure that we're going to get into. But just safe to say that this was going to be one of the largest acquisitions between two companies in a long time. This was going to be huge and, really sets ARM and Nvidia up to be the largest manufacturer of semiconductors and processors through mobile and PC and beyond. Like, this was going to be almost monopoly territory, which I'm sure had a lot to do with this. So this was reported Tuesday, so today, and they're saying that the U.S. chipmaker has told partners it's not expecting the deal to be finalized, and SoftBank, which owns ARM, is ramping up preparations for ARM to go public in lieu of the Nvidia takeover. So that's probably where a lot of this comes from, is that the intervening time between when Nvidia proposed the $40 billion takeover, and now ARM and semiconductors and that whole sector has just really seen a lot of demand. It far outstrips supply, and I'm sure that even the amount to which ARM is worth has gone up substantially. You could look at Nvidia's, and admittedly, in the very, very recent last month, you have Nvidia falling about 30% in its stock price. But before that, you had Nvidia almost doubling in stock price. And you could think about ARM in the same thing. If they were willing to offer $40 billion today, in the intervening year, they were going to pay a lot more. They should have paid a lot more money because of just how well ARM is doing. So there was a lot of roadblocks. There was, of course, a lot of scrutiny from regulators to kind of say, this is too much power for one company to hold. Partners are one thing, but actually owning the whole research and development and the fact that ARM chips go in almost every phone and laptop in the world, that's just a bit too far for Nvidia to do. So this would have been a good deal for Nvidia, not so much for everyone else. And they say that obviously Nvidia shares fell about 3% during pre-market trading, and they say that the U.S. Federal Trade Commission last month sued to block the transaction on antitrust grounds, while British regulators are probing the deal over concerns it will pose a threat to national security. Yeah, there you go. It's something that obviously this would have been really good for Nvidia, but it would have been too good to be true. There's a lot of regulatory headwind, and on top of that, ARM can just go public and just compete with Nvidia, and that seems to be the way that they're going to do it. They often mention that ARM is often considered the crown jewel in the UK's tech industry. Its energy-efficient chip architecture are used in 95% of the world's smartphones and 95% of the chips designed in China. The company makes money from royalties paid by manufacturers. So clearly, this was going to be a huge acquisition, but looks like not so much anymore. And as the average consumer, you should be happy about that. That is indeed a good thing. So there's that one. Let's go ahead and talk about, you know what? Let's do a fun story. If you were one of the first purchaser of an iPhone, then you probably had this app. If you knew someone who had one of the first iPhones, then you undoubtedly had to sit through this demonstration multiple times. But you know what? It was cool back then. It was novel. It was something people had never seen before, and you were happy to sit through it. What am I talking about? Well, it's the iBeer app. This was, this is just a fun little story going back to the heyday of the iPhone, or at least the very beginning of the iPhone, back when things like accelerometers really didn't exist in handheld devices. So what happened was, the iBeer app represented to a generation of early iPhone users, and that I'm afraid is very much what's missing in today's world of non-fungible tokens and idle orangutans. Not only was the app a lighthearted parlor trick that brought a lot of smiles to people, but it raked in a lot of, brought in a lot of money. Check this out. The struggling magician behind the iBeer app was making up to $20,000 a day in its heyday. And honestly, I'm not surprised. And by the way, its heyday, it's not like, 1 week back in 2009, it kind of made it popular. No, this thing was the top of the Apple charts for an entire year. This guy was raking in the money. Now, Sheraton revealed those earnings in a recent interview with Mel Magazine, saying that it's more a perfect slice of early smartphone history. Sheraton's tale harks back to a simpler, more innocent time when one could entertain a crowd of thousands by simply pretending to drink a beer from the iPhone. And if you don't know what this is, let's go ahead and mute this and play this. This is the demonstration of the iBeer app, saying that, but when Steve Jobs launched the App Store in 2008, Sheraton was approached by Apple, which was on the hunt for developers that could make apps show the potential of the iPhone. And honestly, being able to display different videos based on how you tilt and move the phone, this was a perfect, simple, novel way of showing the capabilities of this phone. Because, like the article says, you could show people maps, you could show people, all this kind of geeky stuff. But in reality, showing someone a video of a beer being poured out of your iPhone, that's a little bit cooler. It really is. So with that being said, it was a $3 download, and the app soon was making big money for Sheraton, who apparently spent the cash on plush accommodations in places like Barcelona, and for some reason, antique furniture. Sheraton himself is now 52, so he's really not that old, 52, and has relinquished control of the app. He now lives on a farm in Spain and says he's happy hiding out with my family and fruit. He's still in the illusion business, though, and makes smartphone apps for professional magicians to use in their acts. For some, it seems the magic never has to die. So, yeah, I think the cooler part of this was it was such a simple idea, such a novel idea, and trust me, there were tons of imitators. Like, the ability to do this with your phone, I'm sure, really set up a lot of people's imaginations on what to do with apps. But for $20,000 a day, this guy hit it big, and he did it early. Very, very cool. So there's that story. Story number 3. Yeah, story number 3. I was just having a conversation with Grant in the chat room. By the way, twitch.tv/Computer America, with Grant in the chat room earlier about, how fast internet is. Did you know Lithuania is faster on average than America? True story. Well, that may change. We may get the upper hand over Lithuania one way or another. America will be number 1 again. And it starts this time, apparently, with AT&T, where they'll be rolling out multi-gig fiber internet to more than 70 cities. Think about that. It's not even 1 gig. It's not, 1 gig up and down. No, we are now looking at what is essentially business class, but for the individual consumer. Like, it's what people are apparently demanding. AT&T is now upgrading its fiber-based broadband service with 2 new plans that top out at 2 gigabits per second and 5 gigabits per second, respectively. Yeah. For those who don't know, that is 5 times faster than Google's famed Google 1 gigabit internet connection. This thing is blazingly fast. The company says its new multi-fiber broadband will be available in more than 70 metro areas across Dallas, Los Angeles, and Atlanta. Currently, AT&T's fiber broadband covers about 15 million customers, with the ISP looking to expand its network to more than 30 million customers by 2025. Yeah, now, what's actually pretty cool, check this out. So they have a 5 gig plan, which they say is almost certainly overkill for a typical household, which is kind of true, but at the same time, if you have a large household with a lot of people streaming, a lot of people uploading, a lot of people having video calls, having the bandwidth, that's a luxury. And I know that a lot of people would happily pay an extra $50 if they know for certain they will never hit any kind of threshold, any kind of bottleneck. People may pay the extra $50 just to do it. Now, they say that the ongoing pandemic and shift towards working from home and school continues to put a strain on families with limited internet. But here's the best thing. This is what I think is honestly the best thing. It's symmetrical. It's 5 gigabits upload and download. And that's huge because upload speeds are one of the biggest problems that people have when, they have an issue with Zoom calls or, playing video games or, anything like that. Your upload speed matters a lot. And the fact that it's symmetrical, unlike some carriers that only provide, let's say 400 megabytes per second download speed and maybe like 10 megabytes per second upload speed, it's something else. So they say that in addition to its new multi-gig fiber plans, AT&T is updating its fiber internet plans with more straightforward pricing. AT&T says that this means new customers won't get hit with equipment fees, data caps, or annual contracts, with the initial price locked in for at least 12 months. So your bill should be just the price of its service plus tax, with AT&T throwing in perks such as active armor, internet, blah, 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 blah. Yeah, so while they're not cheap, at least they're available in a few places. And that's exciting. I definitely like faster internet. And not just for myself, but for, really anyone. Because America's really been lagging behind when it comes to internet speed. And any push forward is huge. Yep. So we have that one. Let's go ahead and talk about a couple of these. I know that Nvidia dropping the ARM acquisition deal is a big deal. But this next story, I think, will affect the most people on a day-to-day basis. And this is Google abandons FLoC, which you may know better as just general browsing cookies. Not real cookies, unfortunately, but just general browsing cookie. And instead, they will introduce Topics API to replace tracking cookies. So there you go. Google's new concept assigns users 5 interests per week based on their web activity. Before we get into this is very obvious that even though no clear legislation has been put to Google yet, you have places like in Europe, you have places in the United States that are looking into the whole ad tracking business. And I feel like Google is admitting with this, that they're saying, all right, we get it. The jig is up. We can't track every single thing that a person does online like we have been. It's time to shift to a new model, and one that has a bit more privacy, but still lets us target ads super specifically. So Google wants to have its cake and eat it too. They want to make sure that they get to keep their business model afloat, which any business would want to do that, but they want to get out ahead of regulators before they have Google dismantle everything that they've kind of built. Hey, by hook or by crook, at least they're doing something. So check this one out. And let's see, we can go ahead and mute that and play this in the background. You can see the video if you're watching the video portion, Google Topics. They're saying that Google is walking back plans to replace third-party cookies with FLoC by instead proposing Topics API, a new system for interest-based advertising. Topics work by pinpointing 5 of your interests, such as fitness, travel, and transportation, based on your web activity, as measured by participating websites for 1 week. Your browser will store these topics for 3 weeks before deleting them. Google says that these categories are selected entirely on your device and don't involve any external servers, including Google servers. When you visit a website, Topics will show the site and its advertising partners just 3 of your interests, consisting of 1 topic for each of the past 3 weeks. As noted, there are currently about 350 different topics, and they mentioned that Google will eventually pick through these and kind of decide, what are good specific categories that drive traffic and drive sales. And it's going to be, for now, 350. They mention in a number of weeks and so on and so forth, it'll go from a few hundred to a few thousand eventually. So they're going to have a pretty accurate picture. And honestly, what Google's doing is very, very smart. They get to look like they're championing privacy, which this is much more private than what they used to do. But they're still keeping very timely data about you. And honestly, yes, as much as you could keep all the data from, let's say you take Grant and, let's say you take Grant and you decide, well, this person has searched this kind of video game, this kind of food, this kind of topic, this kind of help with their schoolwork, this kind of search history. You keep it all for 5 years, and you have a very complete picture of who Grant was in the preceding 5 years. And maybe you can then turn your AI algorithm loose and decide, well, this person has stopped showing as much interest in this, has shown more interest in that. Therefore, people who have also done that also, kind of tend along these trends. Having a picture of someone's history is helpful in some regards. But by and large, having someone's recent history is much more helpful. If Ben decides that Ben wants to, take a plane trip somewhere, boy, that's going to be much more helpful than what did Ben Google for dinner 5 years ago. Relevant data beats old data 99 out of 100 times. And so Google's deciding that they can get enough data because they own Chrome and they own and they have so many partnerships with so many websites. They don't need your old data. And they're building a business model now that is going to still help them deliver just as many ads, just as effectively, but no regulator is going to look at them and say, how could this happen? Why are you allowing this to happen? So on and so forth. They're picking the best part of what they've built and doing away with the rest. and calling it a kind of a PR victory. So they mentioned, as noted on the Topics API Hub, there are currently 350, as we mentioned. Google says Topics won't include any sensitive categories like race or gender. And if you're using Chrome, the company is building tools to let you view and delete these topics, as well as turn off the feature. Google's running out of time to replace third-party cookies on Chrome by 2023, and the company plans on launching a developer trial for Topics in Chrome, but there's no information as to when that will actually begin. They mentioned that browsers have traditionally worked only for the users. Remember how great it was when they all started blocking pop-up ads? Saying that Google's concepts, this topic, seem to flip that. Google previously replaced third-party cookies, or federated learning of cohorts, FLoC, is a form of interest-based tracking that identifies you based on your cohort or a group of people that share similar interests. So they could, group people up into giant pools and say that, oh, Ben Googled video games, so therefore we're going to put him in here with all these other video gamers, and by and large, they also like these other categories. Nope, changing that. Now it's individual interest based on the person. Not surprisingly, the Electronic Frontier Foundation, the EFF, has a lot to say about this. They say that's argued that the system poses additional privacy risks, such as making it easier for advertisers to identify you based on your browser fingerprinting, and may also expose information about your demographics, potentially resulting in discriminatory targeted ads. Due to these concerns, browsers like Brave, Vivaldi, Edge, and Mozilla have all refused it. I am so shocked that the direct competitor to Google, Brave, Vivaldi, Edge, and Mozilla, have all so heroically stopped their competitor from rolling out their new system to make money. I don't know how they work up the courage to do so, but there it is. But Google's idea of assigning topics isn't exactly new. Google's Privacy Sandbox was mentioned back in 2019. Like Topics, it would work by sharing a list of interests with advertisers, but as Bennett Cipher of EFF explained at the time, it could still provide trackers with a massive new stream of information that could be used to build or augment their own user profiles. And a recent update says a newer version of the approach under the name Fledge is an early test on Chrome and Chrome Canary. Google will show more details on that plan and measurement technical proposals later this week. Honestly, I feel like this is a step in the right direction. You're not going to get Google, a $1.5 trillion company, to roll over and do nothing and just lose their main revenue source. But as far as the consumer is concerned, all data of you is deleted after 3 weeks. If that's true, that's amazing. That's really, really good for privacy concerns. You are based on your interest. Only what you put in is what they get. They, yes, they still get to kind of target you based on your location and the device that you're using and stuff like that. But by and large, the information that they're acting on is the information you are putting into the system. I really feel like that's fair. If you want to use Google, they're not going to turn on your camera and take pictures of you and, kind of scan you and probe your brain, but they are going to take and store the information, at least for a short amount of time, that you put into their system. That seems like a good, fair, honest way for Google to do business. And if they can refine that idea a little bit more, I feel like that has a really strong chance of really being sustainable and get legislators off of Google's back, which I'm sure that is huge for them. So I actually like it. I actually like that a whole lot. So good job, Google. Let's go ahead and talk about some hacktivists. And not going to get into geopolitics all that much, but for those who don't know, Russia's doing this thing called intimidation. with potential threats. Russia's doing some stuff with their military at the border of Ukraine, I think. Right? Maybe? I don't know. But one way that, I guess apparently, that they're moving troops is by the Belarusian rail system. Check this out. Hacktivists in Belarus, Belarus said on Monday that they had infected the networks of state-run railroad system with ransomware and would provide the decryption key only if Belarus President Lukashenko stopped aiding Russian troops ahead of a possible invasion of Ukraine. Referring to the Belarus Railway, a group calling itself Cyber Partisans wrote on Telegram saying that at the command of the terrorist Lukashenko, so there you go, these days allows the occupying troops to enter our land, blah, 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 blah. Dozens of databases have been cyber attacked, including, and they mention all the different databases that the railway system uses. They announced the attack on Twitter, saying that we have encryption keys and we are ready to return the railroad system to a normal mode. Our conditions: release of the 50 political prisoners who are most in need of medical assistance, and prevent the presence of Russian troops in the territory of Belarus. So, yeah, some hacktivists have taken to shutting down the state's railroad system, which, let's face it, if America has shown us anything, national infrastructure like water and transportation and sanitation and so on and so forth is really not that hardened to cyber crime activity. It's it's pretty bad. So this is the first time that this happened. A representative from the group said in a direct message that the cyber campaign targets specific entities and government-run companies with the goal of pressuring the government to release political prisoners and stop Russian troops. The government continues to suppress the free will of Belarus. Blah, blah, blah. The major goal is to overthrow the regime, so on and so forth. So, yeah, it definitely gets into it. And there you go. Now, with that being said, they say that a principal threat researcher at the security firm SentinelOne said that he was unable to confirm the ransomware attack, but that images provided appeared to confirm someone gained privileged access to Belarus Railways network. The cyber partisan representative said it wasn't hard to access the network, saying that this network has many entry points and is not well isolated from the internet. Cyber partisans entered from one of those points and then opened many other entry points from within. So, yeah, this is definitely different, where hacktivists are not just releasing information, they're not just trying to bring information to people or bring down websites or something like that. No, they're actually affecting national infrastructure to stop troop movement. And if you want to know what a futuristic kind of war looks like, this is a pretty big one. Imagine if during the Vietnam War in America, which was a very, very unpopular war, you had people obviously protesting all the time, but what if some of those protesters could actually stop the production of, military equipment? What if they could stop the movement of troops, their own citizens? What do you do then? This opens up a lot of ideas that, the future of war, everyone has to be behind it, and really, it's not even just your enemy that you have to think about, but your own citizens that have, that would object to this idea of any kind of conflict. And you'd have to make sure everything was completely locked down, which, as we know, not really possible. Not possible at all. So, with that being said, trying to see if there's any other information that we really need. Russia has been sending military equipment and personnel by rail into Belarus, which shares a border with Ukraine. And they said that, They said that more than 33 Russian military trains loaded with equipment and troops have arrived in Belarus for joint strategic exercises there. So there you go. All right. And with that being said, there you go. That's story number 5. I think we're only going to have time for about 2 more stories. And then we're going to go ahead and call it a day. But story number 5, story number 6. Just a little update. People always complain about they never hear about battery technology. This is battery technology for electric vehicles. And really by Panasonic. You know, Panasonic and Tesla have had a really strong relationship, even to the point where I think at one moment in time, I think Tesla was going to buy Panasonic's battery division. I don't think that came to fruition, but they do start to blend a little bit more, and this is pretty cool. Panasonic could start mass producing larger capacity batteries for Tesla as soon as next year. The 4680 cell is said to boost the range of electric vehicles over 15%, and that could boost the range of a Model S from around 400 miles to around 460 miles. Honestly, any kind of range, amazing. That's perfect. They said that although the battery is said to be twice as big, it has 5-fold increase in energy capacity. As such, cars need fewer of the batteries, which are already 10 to 20% cheaper to produce. Think about that. They need like half as many batteries. No, 5-fold. Okay, there's a couple numbers running around here. So they're twice as big, so they can fit half as many on, but they're 5 times as energy efficient, or not efficient, capacity-wise. So you're working with 250% of the capacity, and I'm sure to fit them, physically into the car, that's where they get the extra 15%, range from. They say that it's and of course they're even then talking about a 20% cheaper to produce. So I'm sure that in mass they're even cheaper, which is just good for everyone. It's estimated that the batteries account for 30% of the cost of EVs, and a cost reduction could make EVs more affordable and hasten the transition to vehicles. Because really, when you think about it, car technology has been pretty much perfected for 120 years, whenever Henry Ford first made the car. It's battery technology that needs to come much further for electric vehicles to be much better for everyone else. And this is a good step in the right direction. And they say that Panasonic, a longtime partner of Tesla, is reportedly investing around 80 billion yen, or about $700 million, in new equipment to produce the 4680. It's said to be expanding an existing plant in Japan and making batteries there to begin with. They report that the company will start making the cells on a small scale this year to develop safe and efficient processes before entering major production in 2023. Tesla announced that the 4680 at a Battery Day event back in September 2020. At the time, he said that the cell and other development could enable the Tesla to start selling a $25,000 electric vehicle. And while we're not there yet, not surprising. Not surprising at all that you have, of course, a lot of companies just not able to get their hands on this yet, even Tesla, but yeah, they just aren't really at that level yet. So everyone, story number 6, battery technology, it's almost here. Next year, we should see it in full production, and that's exciting. It's definitely a good thing. Okay, our last story. This has to do with Meta and Facebook and AI and supercomputers. It has it all. This story has everything. Well, Facebook is claiming dominance once again. No, not just over anti-vax conspiracy theories and craziness. No, Facebook is claiming dominance, or I should say Meta is claiming dominance over the fastest supercomputer in the world, which they really do hope by mid-2022 will be their own. And they said that Meta believes that the current iteration is already among the fastest AI supercomputers on the planet, And based on early benchmarks, it claims that the RSC, which is, let's see, what's that stand for? The RSC stands for Research Super Cluster, is fully built out later this year. The company believes it will be the fastest AI supercomputer on the planet, capable of performing nearly 5 exaflops of mixed precision computing. You know, it was just a couple of years ago when we were still looking for the first exaflop supercomputer, and now we're already up to 5 of these exaflops. It's really, you know, that is an incredible amount of computing power, and you could do something really amazing with that. So they mentioned that the RSC currently has 760 Nvidia DGX A100 systems with a total of 6,000 GPUs. That would play a mean game of Fortnite. It's pretty crazy. But yeah, no, and those cards are not cheap. This thing's super expensive, but it's also super powerful. Based on early benchmarks, it claims that that compared with the company's older setup, run computer vision workflows up to 20 times faster, and the NVIDIA Collective Communication Library more than 9 times faster. Meta says that the RSC can train large-scale natural language process models 3 times faster as well. As such, AI models that determine whether an action, sound, or image is harmful or benign can be trained more quickly. Think about that. Meta can train racist AIs 20 times faster. Think about that. That's incredible how many races Facebook can spit out. It's going to be something else. Along with creating physical infrastructure and systems to run RSC, Meta said it needed to ensure that there were security and privacy controls in place to protect real-world training data. Because what they say by real-world training data is everything from your pictures, your photos, your voicemails, your sound clips, everything that you send through Messenger, every picture you take on Instagram, everything, all the time. All that going through Facebook. This year, Meta plans to increase the number of GPUs to 16,000. That's again up from 6,000. It says that will boost AI training performance more than 2.5 times, which, running the numbers in my head, yep, that will be 2.5 times more processors. They really did the math. The supercomputer came in handy. The company, which started working on the project in early 2020, wanted RSC to train AI models on data sets up to an exabyte in size, which is equivalent to about 36,000 years of worth of high-quality video. Quote, we expect such a step function change in compute capability to enable us not only to create more accurate AI models, but to also enable completely new user experiences, especially in the metaverse. Yeah. I know, you didn't see it coming, but still, other exascale systems are being built in the US. They have the Aurora supercomputer, which is the Department of Energy's. Argonne National Laboratory is expected to hit 2 exaflops, while El Capitan supercomputer, which will manage the country's nuclear stockpile, is expected to top the 2 exaflop when it arrives later this year. Performing at nearly 5 exaflops. Let's just say that I'm sure that there are other supercomputers that are in the planning stage that will be faster than it, but for a good long while, Facebook will have Meta will have some of the most powerful hardware on Earth. And for better or worse, they're going to use it for their services, for you, against you, with you. I don't know how that's going to play out, but everyone, I think with that, we're about done for the day. Thank you so much for tuning into the program. I hope that you enjoyed it. Check out computeramerica.com. We have some stuff in the works. And yeah, in just about a week's time, we'll be heading into our 32nd year on the air. I want to thank everyone just ahead of time for tuning in, staying a fan, listening. And if you're new, thank you so much for checking us out. If you're old, that's okay. It's okay to be old. No. Thank you for being a long-time listener. Everyone else out there, thank you so much. Have a good one. Bye, everyone.